Chancellor, Mr. President, distinguished members of the Board of Directors, learned faculty, esteemed graduates, and friends. Let me tell you a little story right from my profession. There was a very famous English conductor. His name was Sir Thomas Beecham. He became a byword for excellence, but he was known as much for his rapier wit as his baton. And of course, like anyone so distinguished, he became at the end of his life simply Sir Thomas throughout the world. He had a younger generation nipping at his heels. One of the nippers was named Malcolm Sargent. He was not as distinguished, there's no question, but a serviceable conductor, as it were. And it came the time when Malcolm Sargent's name appeared on the birthday list. And one of the young cultural reporters couldn't wait to get the news to Sir Thomas Beecham that Malcolm Sargent was to be knighted. He caught Sir Thomas at the end of a rehearsal, leaving the room. He rushed over and said, Sir Thomas, Malcolm Sargent is being given a knighthood." Sir Thomas turned in the doorway, raised his beetling brows and said, "Malcolm? Knighted? Well, I knew he'd been doctored." Well, now I know what that's like. And I can tell you, it doesn't hurt. What I want to say most of all, and first and foremost, is thank you. I feel profoundly honored. I feel honored, especially insofar as Royal Roads University, with its many distinguished accomplishments, doesn't have an arts program particularly. So the fact that in my work and in my working life, something is seen that can be of use, I find very touching and deeply, deeply rewarding. I would say that I feel humbled, except I realize I would have to go home and prove it. I think I have little to advise you about. You, who in this room I think are managers of the future. And I have to tell you, as a performer, as an artist, as an artistic director, and as someone involved in not-for-profit, I know the value of good management. We wouldn't last a weekend without good management. So I have a deep regard for your accomplishments and your aspirations. Deeper even because I myself have no such talent, and you must know what you're good at. You must also know what you should leave alone and leave to others. I think I find a definition of my standing in a remark of Oscar Wilde, the inexhaustible source of so much fun. He said about a friend, "My dear, the man is incapable of managing the affairs of a tom-tit in a hedge for a single afternoon." That's me. So all the more reason for me to celebrate, rejoice, and admire and wish you all well. I have a couple of little things maybe to add to the very distinguished and far-reaching remarks of both your Chancellor and your President. I read in the Globe and Mail yesterday that there's a Harvard study that's been completed showing that even thinking about money, even in the abstract, conditions people to make choices that are less than ethical. I don't want to inveigh against it, but in my lifetime, I have watched the values that I've spent my life being a proponent of and defending shift. And I have watched the rise of one single measure of value in the world at large, money itself. I want you to think about the implications of that, and I want you to use your expertise to steer the world away from this morass where everything is measured by one standard. Look at the final wisdom of some of our contemporaries who've accumulated the greatest wealth, those billionaires who at the end of a life of accumulation have come to the conclusion the very best thing they can do with all of that is give it away. Give it away intelligently. Give it away meaningfully. Make that real investment in betterment with what they've been able to amass. I would like to convey their examples, or have you remember their examples as you go through your life. And I think there are two lodestars I maybe can add that have meant so much to me, and this is my chance to share that with you. One is nature, and the other, of course, arts. By nature, I don't just mean the postcard, the beautiful sunset. I'm thinking the home that we share together, which is the earth. That you find some way to connect to it, deeply, meaningfully, and purposefully. The kind of experience that Blake meant when he wrote, "To hold the world in a grain of sand, and a heaven in a wild flower. To see infinity in the palm of your hand, and eternity in an hour." We must all, you and those that you bring into the world, will be faced with having to turn us around from our rapacious exploitation of our precious home. We're not at the end. We're told it can be saved, but it must be saved by people, by individuals and their commitment. And that is why I think a connection to nature, an understanding of it, not just a theoretical acknowledgement, but a really profound engagement. Get your hands dirty sometime. Plant something. Weed. Get out there. Engage with the earth. It's so healthy, and it may be the start of something that will have bigger implications in the future of the world. Because I am part of a generation that has not been thoughtful in this respect. I regret it. And I regret that it's going to be up to you to fix it. But I hope you think about it. That's one thing, nature. Meaningful engagement with nature. The arts. You know, there's a great span between the highest reaches of our arts and entertainment. It is a spectrum. I want you to be able to enjoy all of it. Some of the higher end becomes a little bit forbidding. We think about what it is to go to an opera or go to a concert, get dressed up, and am I going to understand it? I can't get up and dance necessarily myself. What am I going to get out of this? Here's a way to do it. Put some Bach, put some Mozart, put some Wagner on your playlist when you're working, when you're jogging. Expose yourself. Inform yourself. It's not hard. And you will find that you share something of my thrill when I open a score of Mozart's, and I am instantly in the presence of one of the greatest minds humankind has ever produced. When I go to a performance or am involved in a performance, let's say The Marriage of Figaro coming up next season, this looks like a domestic comedy. But Mozart's sublime understanding of order and of the microcosm of the family and how it connects to a bigger society means that at the end of this opera, we come away with a glimpse of our own perfectibility. We come away with a tiny little square inch of cerulean blue that is some kind of heaven. And that is something that art can give you. And that is something I hope you have a chance to pursue and find in your own lives. Whatever you're doing, remember, We're not just writing the history of events, the history of wars, the history of conquest, the history of economic flux, the history of wealth and its distribution. We are also writing a spiritual history, and our arts represent the spiritual diary of mankind. Do everything you can to contribute to writing another great page. Thank you very much.